He tossed the rag at my boots like I was background noise, like I didn't exist beyond the frame of his little live stream circus. The pavement still smelled like hot rubber from the way he'd peeled in, showing off for his audience. Gold chain, designer hoodie, probably hadn't worked a real job in his life. And here I was, a 51-year-old woman with crow's feet and steel in my back pocket, getting barked at by a boy who hadn't even paid for the car he was flexing in. He didn't recognize the Dominion patch on my jacket. Didn't notice Malik hovering by the clipboard or Denise standing quietly by the fence. He just saw a woman in uniform, assumed I was the janitor of his little kingdom, and thought humiliation would make good content. Maybe it would have if the world still worked the way it did before people like me stopped apologizing. Before we get deeper into what happened next, do me one favor, hit that subscribe button and tap the like. It keeps these stories coming, and trust me, you're going to want to hear how this ends. Only 3% of listeners subscribe, and that one click means the world to the team who pulls these together. Anyway, I didn't flinch, didn't even raise an eyebrow. I just stared at the rag he'd tossed. Cheap microfiber, probably stolen from the last detail shop that kicked him out. The gimbal on his phone tracked my expression, and his smirk widened like he'd already won. That smug look kids wear when they think the world owes them applause just for showing up. "You deaf?" he repeated, louder now, playing to the chat. "Hey, Grandma, this your first day?" I tilted my head. "You Jordan McAdams?" That froze him for half a beat. The smirk didn't vanish, just twitched. "What?" "Leaseholder of VIN 3WPX97G4NR527042, Porsche 911 Arctic Silver. You missed your third payment 2 weeks ago and the bank transferred asset control to Dominion Recovery Group. That's us." Denise walked past him without a word and opened the passenger side door. Malik moved to the rear, calling in the plate to confirm. The kids' audience, still watching live, started flooding the chat with question marks and laughing emojis. "You're kidding," Jordan said, laugh shaky now. "This is a prank, right? I pay my stuff. You can't just show up like this." I handed him the carbon copy of the release order. "Actually, we can." And we did. He stepped back like I'd slapped him. "I'm calling my dad." "Please do," I said. "While you're at it, let him know Section 7.3C of your lease specifically forbids commercial monetization of the vehicle without disclosure. Every single live stream you've posted with that car, breach of contract. That's what greenlit this." He looked like he wanted to argue, like he wanted to puff himself up and scream into the heavens, but Denise was already sliding into the front seat. The live stream froze. Malik had unplugged the phone from its mount. Jordan lurched forward. "Hey, that's mine." "No," I said. "It was. Now it belongs to whoever wins the auction, assuming they're not live streaming garbage takes to 12-year-olds from their mom's garage." The tow truck rolled in clean behind it. Hydraulic lift, freshly greased. It hoisted the Porsche like a toddler's toy. Jordan turned toward the balconies above. 3 neighbors leaning over railings, recording, laughing. One of them even clapped. I didn't smile. Just stepped back, clipboard in hand, and let the silence hum like a live wire. "You people are trash," Jordan spat, voice cracking. "You're ruining my brand." Malik looked at me. "Want to respond?" I shook my head. "Why?" He already said it all, we're trash, and he's walking. By the time the tow truck was halfway down the street, the chat had imploded. His followers weren't watching a prank anymore. They were watching a man lose the one thing that made him feel untouchable. I turned and walked back to the booth. Didn't gloat, didn't linger, because I didn't need to see him crumble. I'd already seen the ledger, and it didn't lie. 3 years ago, I stepped out of a glass tower office in Chicago and didn't look back. 15 years of whiteboards, boardrooms, pitch decks, and product launches, every quarter a fresh war, every bonus soaked in someone else's blood. My ex-husband said I forgot how to smile. That was rich, coming from a man who only smiled when his phone lit up with some intern's name after midnight. Burnout was the polite word for what I went through. Breakdown was closer. The divorce settlement was clean, clinical, no kids to haggle over, just assets, titles, shares, and one very exhausted woman who signed the papers, sold the penthouse, and drove west until the highway signs started getting dusty. I wanted silence. I wanted distance. I wanted a life where no one asked me to smile unless they damn well meant it. I found Dominion Recovery Group through an old contact in commercial lending. Quiet company, solid numbers, regional reach, but no public footprint. I called from a prepaid number. We met once, in a truck stop cafe off I-80 where I slid a folder across the table. Inside, a trust certificate under the name Stonewall Acquisitions LLC, complete with transfer authorization and silent equity rights. Dominion didn't need my name. They needed my capital, my systems background, and someone who could rebuild their processes without needing a damn parade about it. They got all three. I rewrote every policy in the first 4 months. Asset flow, notification protocols, lease clause triggers. I did it all from the back office under the guise of contract support, watching agents come and go, watching deals fall apart, not because people were evil, but because they thought contracts were jokes. So I got certified. Quietly, passed the asset recovery board, field safety, lien enforcement, even did ride-alongs in the rain because I wasn't going to be the kind of owner who hid behind fine print. And the truth? I liked it. I liked the grit, the silence, the moments when you knock on a door at 5:03 a.m. and someone opens it thinking they're still in control, and you're holding a court order that says otherwise. That Porsche? It came through flagged on a quarterly report. Shell lease tied to a sketchy LLC registered in Nevada, cross-verified with influencer accounts and GPS tags. I didn't need to see his face to know the type. Flashy edits, rental homes passed off as owned, and a car that cost more than his declared income for the past 2 years. We gave him 3 notices. He ignored them. Fourth one was a legal demand, delivered by mail and email, both read, both left unanswered. That's when I filed the escalation myself. Not under my name, not from an office, just a simple digital request with the right flags and attachments. And when Malik forwarded the final hit list before Sunday's recovery shift, I saw it. McAdams, VN ending in 7042, Porsche 911, commercial misuse. I didn't tell anyone I'd be overseeing it personally. I just showed up. Same jumpsuit, same clipboard. Let him call me old man in front of 500,000 viewers. Let him toss that rag. Because that moment wasn't about him. It was about me. About everything I built, quietly, while the world assumed I'd vanished. Stonewall didn't vanish. She just learned how to collect. With interest. Jordan Vex. That was the name he splashed all over his brand. YouTube intros, Twitch overlays, Instagram bios with too many emojis. To his little fan base, he was a lifestyle mogul in the making. But to Dominion Recovery Group, and to me, he was just another delinquent asset hiding behind a ring light. Real name, Kyle McAdams. Age 20, maybe 21. No verified income outside sponsorships, all of which were dependent on an image built around things he didn't actually own. His Porsche lease was through a shell company called Vex Holdings LLC. Cute if it hadn't been so dumb. That LLC had no tax filings for the last 2 years. No registered commercial license. And every time he revved that engine for clicks, he was breaching his own lease. Didn't even bother reading it, I'm sure. Probably signed it on an iPad at some dealership that just wanted to hit quarterly numbers. He ignored the first notice. And the second. Our final demand, delivered by certified mail and email, was read on a Thursday morning at 11:13 a.m. I know, because the read receipt came through while he was live on TikTok showing off a Porsche Life sticker pack. That was the moment I filed the warrant escalation. Not just a standard repo order, this one was flagged under cross-jurisdictional business misuse. Because the car wasn't just overdue, it was being illegally monetized. Our contract had a clause, buried near the back, small font like always. Section 7.3c. If the vehicle is used for commercial purposes, including social media monetization, influencer branding, or promotional content, without explicit registration disclosure to the lessor, the lease is voidable at will and subject to immediate recovery. He'd never filed a disclosure. Never filed taxes on the revenue either, based on the shell's public returns. Every live stream he posted with that car in frame, a violation. Every monetized view, evidence. I built the case slowly, screenshotted every post, cross-referenced the plate, used a software crawler that tracked influencer content against VIN numbers, quiet little tool I'd written myself after a similar repo went sideways 2 years ago. That crawler found 412 unique pieces of monetized content featuring the car. 412. Most of them uploaded after the first missed payment. I didn't need to shout. Didn't need to explain. The paper did all the talking. When I approached him on that lot, surrounded by his fans' digital drool, I held the clipboard like it weighed nothing. Jordan McAdams? He paused, rag still on the ground, gimbal shaking slightly as the phone tried to autocorrect its frame. How do you... That was all he got out before Malik opened the passenger door and slid into the seat like it was just another Tuesday. He popped the glove box, checked for the lease packet, and radioed Denise. I could see Jordan's brain trying to play catch-up. I'd seen the same look on CEOs, lawyers, landlords, people who built their entire lives on the assumption that contracts were polite suggestions. But this one had teeth, and those teeth had been filed, notarized, and reviewed by 3 jurisdictions before we ever showed up. "You can't just take my car," he barked, stepping forward like he thought volume could override jurisdiction. "I've got rights. This is theft." I flipped the clipboard around and showed him the court's digital seal. "This is Article 9 of the Uniform Commercial Code in action. You're welcome to challenge it, but I'd recommend doing so with a lawyer, not a live stream." He stared at the paper like it might bite him. Then his eyes darted back to the phone, still dangling from the gimbal. "You don't get it," he stammered. This car is my brand." "No," I said. "It was your brand. Now it's an asset in transition." Denise opened the trunk. Jordan looked like he wanted to physically stop her, but hesitated, realizing she wasn't here to argue. She was here to finish. Dominion doesn't roll in half-cocked. That's the thing about paper. People laugh at it until it's holding the keys to their identity. I didn't gloat, didn't smile, just held the clipboard steady while the sun baked the blacktop and Jordan's fantasy life started leaking oil in real time. Because some people live online. But I live in the fine print. The last thing Jordan's followers saw was his panicked face contorting mid-word, one arm flailing toward the phone before Malik calmly unplugged it from the gimbal and powered it off like swatting a fly. The chat had been a rolling storm of WTF and fire emojis, but in an instant it vanished. Stream ended, curtain dropped. And all that performance energy? Nowhere to go. Jordan spun like a trapped animal, looking for someone, anyone, to validate the reality he thought he still controlled. "You can't do this!" he shrieked, voice cracking under the weight of panic. "I have 200K followers!" I didn't blink. I handed him a crisp carbon copy of the court release, the one with the seal embossed at the bottom and the default clause highlighted in yellow. "No," I said, slow and even. "You had 200K. Behind him, the tow truck reversed into position like a ballet dancer hitting their mark. No grinding gears, no screeching tires, just the smooth precision of someone who does this 100 times a month. The hydraulic arms cradled the Porsche from underneath while Jordan stood helpless, watching the only thing that gave him identity rise 2 feet off the ground. He lunged, not with full conviction, but with the kind of desperate twitch that said he didn't know what else to do. That's when Denise stepped in. She didn't yell. She didn't even raise her hand. She just turned slightly, revealing the badge clipped to her belt, and leveled him with a look that could freeze Diesel. "Don't," she said. One word. Full stop. He didn't. His shoulders dropped like someone had unplugged his spine. By the time the truck driver secured the final straps, it had been 90 seconds since the stream died. 90 seconds to dismantle a digital empire built on borrowed time and leased ego. A woman on the second-floor balcony leaned over the railing with a glass of wine and muttered, "'Bout time." Someone next to her laughed, then clapped, then someone else joined in. Light applause. Not sarcastic, not cruel, just the sound of neighbors witnessing justice land where it belonged. Jordan turned in a slow circle like he was waiting for someone to step in and declare this a prank. Like Ashton Kutcher might jump out of a hedge and hand him his keys back. But all he got was the empty click of Malik handing the clipboard to the driver. I didn't move. Just watched. Let him simmer in the silence he'd never prepared for. "I'll sue all of you," he muttered. "You'll see. My lawyer will tell you to read your contracts," I said. Page 11, Section 7.3c. You monetized a leased asset without disclosure. We don't even need the missed payments. That clause alone made you vulnerable. His mouth opened, but nothing came out. Just air and ego. The truck started pulling away. The Porsche angled like a prize won at the end of a rigged game. But this time, the house hadn't lost. The house had the paperwork. He tried to follow. Denise stepped gently in his path and shook her head. "Don't embarrass yourself further," she said. Not cruel, just factual. And that's what finally did it. His hands dropped. He looked down at the phone still clutched in his fist. Dead screen, shattered illusion. For the first time, he wasn't being watched. Not really. Not by people who cared. Just 3 agents, a few amused neighbors, and a legal document that cared about one thing only: enforcement. He didn't cry. I'll give him that. He just stood there, unraveling in the heat, the smell of burned rubber and lost leverage curling into the air like incense. I turned to walk back toward the office trailer. Malik followed, then Denise. We didn't say much, no high fives, no celebration. Because we weren't the heroes, we were just the consequence. I was still peeling off the day when my phone buzzed. Not the work line, not the encrypted Dominion tablet, the personal one. The number didn't show up, just restricted. Normally I'd let that go to voicemail, but something in my gut said pick up. "This is Claire," I said, towel still slung around my shoulders, bare feet on the cold tile. A man's voice came through, calm but curious. "Miss Claire, this is Douglas Wexler, chairman of Dominion Recovery." I froze mid-step. Wexler wasn't just a name on the organizational tree, he was the tree. Founding partner, institutional legend. He hadn't spoken to me once since I signed the silent equity paperwork under Stonewall Acquisitions, LLC. He didn't need to, until now. "I've been watching this clip," he said casually. "Went viral on a few platforms. A Porsche repo, kid screaming about his followers, woman in a jumpsuit who didn't blink once." My breath caught. For a second, I wasn't sure which way this was headed. "Was that you?" I didn't lie. "Yes, sir." A beat of silence. "It was within contract bounds," I added. Clause 7.3c for commercial misuse and Clause 9.2f covering digital fraud and jurisdictional escalation. We had everything in place. Court approved, all clean. He chuckled. Not polite boardroom laughter, real, open-chested amusement. "God, I love paper," he said. I waited. "Claire," he said, voice shifting into something more formal now. "Effective immediately, we're moving you to the Operational Audit Board. Full voting rights, oversight on enforcement structure, clause application, regional protocols. You've built a tighter system in 6 months than some of our VPs did in 5 years." I stood there dripping on the tile, towel slack around my neck, hearing the words but still anchored in disbelief. "Understood," I said, my voice even. "I'll submit updated disclosures from Stonewall and shift protocol sign-offs by end of week." "No need to rush," he said, still sounding like he was grinning. "But Claire?" "Yes?" "Next time you go viral, at least wear a Dominion badge. We've got people thinking we subcontract with Navy SEALs now." I let myself laugh, quietly, just once. We hung up. I stood still for a moment longer, letting the weight of it settle. Then I grabbed the secure tablet, uploaded the Stonewall ownership ledger, signed the updated disclosures, and submitted my voting intent registry. No more aliases, no more indirect oversight. That clip, the one Jordan had screamed through before Malik unplugged him, had hit over 4 million views by then. One of the trending comments was, "She didn't even flinch. Queen behavior." Another, "Who is she?" They didn't know, but Wexler did. And after that call, so did every director in Dominion. When I walked into headquarters 3 days later for the quarterly review, no one questioned the name on the access badge. No one glanced at the blazer instead of the jumpsuit. No whispered surprise when I walked past reception without checking in. Because from that moment forward, the woman they ignored behind the clipboard was now the one reading their reports and signing off on who stayed and who got cut loose. And she'd read every clause. Twice. The echo didn't take long. By the time I got back to the office on Tuesday, Dominion's media team had already clipped the footage. They trimmed the cursing, cut out the neighbors cheering, and layered it with a low hum of cinematic strings. The final edit was 91 seconds. No names, no faces shown. Just a tow truck, a clipboard, and one sentence over black screen at the end. Respect comes standard. It went live at 7:42 a.m. By noon, it had hit 6 million views, and Jordan, Kyle, really was unraveling in real time. His sponsors were the first to blink. One by one, they pulled links from his bios, deleted shared posts, then posted their favorite flavor of modern corporate death. We are reevaluating our brand partnerships to ensure alignment with our core values. Translation? You embarrassed us. You're on your own. The influencer credit card he flaunted on stream, canceled before he could swipe it again. Turns out, those flex limits depend on pending deposits from affiliate campaigns. And when brands walk, so do the banks. The financial platform that backed his card issued a freeze notice citing breach of public standards agreement. Code for, you got clowned, and now you're a liability. Then came the landlord. The same high-rise where he used to film shirtless coffee shots on the balcony. Management had already received 3 tenant complaints that weekend. Noise violations, parking misuse, and my personal favorite, a note from a neighbor titled, "Can you repo his ego too?" A formal eviction notice landed in his inbox 48 hours after the tow. He posted a teary Instagram story that afternoon in a dimly lit room, saying, "They're trying to cancel me and you can't silence the truth." But there was no truth left, just silence. The sanitized clip kept climbing. Comments flooded in. She moved like she knew the law. Not all heroes wear capes, some carry clipboards. This is the only influencer takedown I've ever rewatched 6 times. People weren't just entertained. They were relieved. They were hungry for something real in a sea of faked Lambos and borrowed lives. And they saw it in that clip. Someone who didn't yell, didn't posture, didn't threaten. Just enforced. I didn't reply to any of the comments, didn't repost, didn't even like the video, but I watched it once. Not for the spectacle, for the pause, right before the tow lifts the car and he realizes it's really gone. That second of quiet, the glitch in his face, the realization that no amount of clout, hashtags, or promo codes could save him from something as boring and absolute as a contractual clause. Because that's what justice really is. Not loud, not fast, not angry, just precise. And when it lands, it doesn't need to shout. It just stamps the paperwork and moves on. He messaged me late, around 2:14 a.m., the kind of hour when panic chews through denial and pride runs out of oxygen. The account name was new, barely set up, no profile picture, just a username scrambled to look anonymous. Just talk 2223. But the writing gave him away immediately. "Hey, can we talk? I didn't know who you were. That wasn't personal, just doing content. Hope you understand." Hope I understand. It always circles back to that, doesn't it? These men who weaponize arrogance in public and then come crawling in private, pretending the humiliation they manufactured wasn't meant to land. As if calling a stranger old man in front of 200,000 people is just part of the show. As if the stream doesn't count once the camera's off. I didn't respond. Didn't type. Didn't block. Just let the message rot in the unread folder where the silence says, "More than I ever could." What I did do was open Dominion's case ledger and pull up the asset file on the Porsche. Auction set for the following Thursday. Prelim bids already pushing above projected. I clicked into the financials, scrolled to the bottom, and filled out Form 12.4b, Reallocation of Asset Sale Funds. Clause 12.4b of our lease enforcement policy states, "In the event that the leasee has defaulted and the asset is repossessed, Dominion reserves the right to reallocate auction proceeds toward any pending insurance claims, legal fees, or administrative penalties incurred as a result of misuse." It was clean. No drama. Just numbers. 3 claims had stacked up from his usage, 2 minor collision reports he never disclosed, and 1 fraudulent endorsement he used to claim reduced insurance premiums by tagging the car as non-commercial. The audit had already flagged it. The forms were sitting in a backlog. All I did was push them to the front. Once the claim offsets processed, auction fees subtracted, and towing storage charges applied, the final amount left in his disbursement? $38.27. I reviewed it twice, approved it, hit submit. 2 days later, he received the breakdown from Dominion's accounting team, itemized, notarized, and archived. He didn't message again. And that was the justice I preferred. Not viral clips, not Twitter threads, but numbers that speak the language of consequence. Jordan McAdams had built a brand on the illusion of untouchability, of fast cars, luxury drops, and a persona that thrived on getting away with things the rest of us had to earn. But at the end of all that bluster, all those followers, all those affiliate links and morning grind reels, he was left with $38.27, enough to buy a charger for the phone he streamed from, not enough to buy silence from a contract he never read. 2 weeks later, the concrete monument that was Dominion's HQ hadn't changed. Same steel beams, same fingerprint scanner, same oversized conference room on the 31st floor that smelled faintly of toner and strategy. But I had. This time, I walked through the front entrance without swiping someone else's visitor badge. No clipboard, no steel-toed boots, just a blazer, black slacks, and a lanyard that said, "Audit Board, full access." It felt less like arrival and more like restoration. The quarterly operations meeting was already underway when I stepped in. Agents, analysts, field leads, all gathered around a custom-cut walnut table that had probably seen more lawsuits than lunch breaks. I caught a few curious looks when I walked past the pitcher of water and took a seat up front. I didn't explain. Didn't need to. Wexler introduced me with a nod and said only, "Claire will be reviewing the enforcement pipeline with us going forward." No background, no resume read, just presence. Halfway through the meeting, one of the newer analysts, mid-20s, smart eyes, wearing a Dominion vest like a second skin, raised his hand. "Sorry, just need to ask," he said, glancing around. "That Porsche repo, the viral one, was that actually you?" I paused for half a breath. "It was." He grinned, almost apologetically. "You really just walked up, took the car midstream, and didn't blink?" I sipped my coffee and set the mug down. "Correct," I said. "Because we don't chase clout. We enforce contracts." The room went still for a second, then a quiet murmur of approval passed through, a few nods. One of the senior field officers, an old-school repo vet with elbows like sandpaper, actually tapped the table in silent applause. I didn't gloat. Just folded my notes and moved on to the next agenda item, liability risk shifts in influencer leasing. But the tone had changed. For the rest of the meeting, questions came quicker. Eyes stayed on me longer. I wasn't just that woman from the clip anymore. I was the one who wrote the updated enforcement policy they were all now quoting in their reports. My role wasn't reactive. It was foundational. Later, in the break room, a compliance officer offered me her seat. A regional manager asked if I'd review a draft clause he'd been working on. Small things, but they meant everything in a place like this. Because 2 weeks ago, I was the ghost in a jumpsuit no one noticed until the engine revved. Now they listened when I spoke. And not because I raised my voice, but because I raised the standard. The post landed in my inbox with no subject line, just a link and a half-laughing message from Malik. "Thought you'd enjoy this." It was a Reddit thread, buried in one of those fan forums where influencers get dissected like failed reality TV contestants. The original poster had screenshotted a blurry photo of Jordan, no Porsche in sight, just him standing outside a vape shop in a hoodie, waiting for an Uber. Caption, "Where's the Porsche, bro? Why you back on foot?" The comments were ruthless. Some joked about his rebrand to public transit. Others speculated he'd sold the car for crypto. But it was his reply, tucked between sarcasm and shame, that stuck. "Long story," he wrote. "Met a guy who didn't care about views. He got the pronoun wrong, but the sentiment? That part was accurate, because I didn't care about followers. Or likes. Or whatever SEO optimized persona he'd built on the back of someone else's balance sheet. I cared about enforcement, about the weight of ink on paper and the consequences that come when you treat legal boundaries like a prop for your live stream. Jordan's fall wasn't spectacular. It didn't need to be. There was no sobbing YouTube apology, no comeback arc, just a slow digital fizzling out. Like a sparkler at the end of a party no one remembered attending. Sponsorships gone, DMs unanswered, stories left unseen. In our line of work, there are no parades when you do it right. No medals, no viral moments worth bragging about. There's just clean process, a stack of forms, a VIN that changes hands, and silence. The kind that follows you long after the cameras stop. I never replied to the thread, never logged in, never posted a follow-up. But I bookmarked it just once, as a reminder. He tossed a rag at my boots like I was just the help. He didn't realize I owned the ledger that took his ride.
다리만 고장났습니까? 허리도 아플 건데.
원희 물결표님이 누나 그거 머리에서 그린 시켜서 그래.
아니야.
원희 물결표님이 아니다 암시해봐 괜찮아져 키키우.
아니야.
낚시 좋아지니님이 아그티.
이 낚시 장비, 밑밥, 낚시 가방, 방송 장비, 무게가 어마무시했어.
머리가 고장난 듯합니다. 낚시 좋아지니님이 머리.
심각한데? 그게 고장났으면 심각한 건데? 아니, 이 양반은
아드님이 왔다시다.
화장실 따시지.
낚시조 아드님이 화장실 키키키키요.
아니, 이 양반은